This is the Manufacturing Automation Podcast. I'm Michael.
And I'm Matt. In this podcast, we're going to discuss growing companies, automation and manufacturing,
and how we're building the lives and businesses we want to see in the world.
Got some high energy now coming off of that.
A 4-hour meeting and you got high energy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I like meeting with clients. Like that's, well, it can be challenging at times because you have to always be, you're either delivering really good news or really bad news is kind of the way it is. Hey, your project's done, it's on track, or hey, supplier missed a deadline, or your product's not working the way we theoretically thought it would. And so now we have to discuss all the alternative options and work through this together.
Yeah. I love 90% of client meetings, but it's the 10%. You know, sometimes you catch someone who's maybe not the most reasonable.
Yeah, and the worst part is those 10% suck the positive energy from the other 90 somehow. I don't know how that does that, but it's like, that's something I've definitely worked on the longer I've been in business. It's like just because you had one bad meeting doesn't mean it's going to ruin the rest of the day or what's to come.
Yeah, I think learning to fire those clients who just like suck your soul out is one of the things that kind of lets you get to, break the first of many glass ceilings as you grow.
Yeah, I'd agree. You're still going to have some tough meetings with
there's going to be new ones.
I will say that. So anybody that's out there listening, just because you have a bad meeting doesn't mean they're a bad client.
Yeah, and sometimes it's your fault, right? Sometimes you just screwed up or the company screwed up and you deserve the crappy meeting. But I think the real feel bad ones are when you didn't screw up or you delivered exactly what you promised and then the client's just not happy. And sometimes that happens.
It does. It definitely does. But yeah, I guess that's kind of my start of general feelings of the week. I'll let you go, Michael.
My general feelings, I'm getting over this bronchitis finally. So
you sound a lot better.
Yeah. Even last week on the pod, my tongue was like numb and I had to be conscious about speaking because of all the constant cough drops. And now I'm down to only 15 cough drops a day.
You won't have a giant hole in your lip.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Or cavities.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a lot of cough drops.
But really good. We were running, with me being out for 2 weeks, we were running pretty behind on some R&D projects that, namely the Rev 4, the conveyor we needed to finish out, and the auto door for the intraload. And both of those things are back on track now. So I had a very productive 3 days. I'm feeling really good.
Nice.
January is always our slowest month of the year. So, that is what it is, but it is kind of par for the course for what we see. Yeah,
it's probably pretty standard for manufacturing or engineering companies. It always seems like that January to March is always the toughest period. I don't know, for the 5 years that I've been doing this, that's always all right, the bills are always the heaviest for some reason from all your other things that you purchase throughout that time. And then the clients are tending to be a little bit slower, a little bit cautious in that Q1, which is interesting. So it's you just got to know how to manage your books as you're going into Q1.
Yeah, and historically we always have one bad month, whether it's January or February or March, but it's always one of those three. And of course, what constitutes a bad month has grown drastically as the company has grown too. But it's still a little stressor because it's December. We were talking about trying to hire and onboard a couple more people, and then January comes around. I'm like, maybe not.
Yeah, that's where zooming out and being able to see the long term perspective via your Gantz, or in your case, your manufacturing. How do you forecast that out? But
well, transparently, Matt, the big thing for us, I'm good at that long term thinking, but I think one thing I didn't think about when over the course of a year we a little over doubled in size, in revenue, more than doubled in headcount, and then pulled back to double. When we did all of that, I didn't really account for doubling all of our cash balances. So that's really still probably the biggest concern to growth is managing cash.
Yeah, for sure. That's every small business paying his cash flow. At the end of the day, that's the thing you're always keeping your eye on, because you want to grow as fast as you can, but you don't want to burn all the fuel out.
Yeah, because you can double and triple in size, and if you just break even, now your cash reserves are in essence a third of what they were relative to your size.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But do you want to move on to the next section?
Yeah, next is sales and marketing was the topic there. Anything you want to hit right away?
Well, I just talked. I'll let you spearhead the first
All
one.
right, got it. So, sales and marketing for us, the one thing we just got done with is we just completed a 6 minute case study video. So
Mm-hmm.
that big machine that we just shipped out at the end of the year, we flew our videographer down for part of that installation. We videotaped it. We recorded interviews with the end customer while they were here too at factory acceptance and
Mm-hmm.
site acceptance. So it turned into a 6 minute case study, which I'm really excited about to release that in the coming weeks here.
Cool.
So other than that, kind of building on the case study is what was the I had a note here, sorry. Oh, for marketing, I'm curious to bounce this one off you. A team member had the idea for doing case studies with our automation assessments. So
Mm-hmm.
offering to go in and videotape facilities. So our automation assessments, for those that don't know, it's typically $5,000 a day. We recommend doing a day and a half, and then we'll cover travel. So basically
Yep.
$7,500 will cover travel anywhere in the U.S. The goal is it's always been a loss leader uh, solution for us. It's to get in the door, get a better understanding of the business, help give them the best ROI opportunity for automation, but very pain to sell. It's been
Right.
interesting, even though we know we're losing money on it or we break even on them at best. We know we're trying to get the big project at the end. What we're trying to do is get skin in the game from them. Like, all right, I had one call this week
Mm-hmm.
where, all right, it's $7,500 to come in on site and it's potentially $1 million automation. And it's
Right.
like, don't you want to mitigate the risk? And they're like, no, that seems like a big
Yeah.
cost. And it's like, what am I missing here? Like, I feel like I'm missing it. And one of the team members like, well, what if we just charged more and you offer to give them a marketing video with it? It's like,
Right.
that's actually a really good idea considering all the other things we're doing, but I wanted to bounce that off you and see what you thought, or maybe some listeners will comment on that.
Yeah. I guess the first thing I think I try to take the customer perspective a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I do understand the hesitation of, $7,500 if nothing happens is just $7,500 that's burned, right?
Yeah, it
Um,
does go as a credit towards it buying a machine. So if
okay,
you
yeah.
buy a machine from us, it counts as a credit.
Yeah, that helps. Um, but I think it's like a high enough number that if you're in a company that you're servicing like their scale, most likely you're going to have to, go it up the chain at least a little bit, right?
Oh, for
Which I think is
usually
part of the pain.
we're usually talking to directors of operations, so a COO, a president of the company. So if it's a 10 to $25 million company, we're typically talking to the president or
Right.
GM of that company, or maybe the CEO, even at that case. Now, if we get into 25 million and up, and we're having this conversation, usually we're talking basically one layer below that, maybe
Yeah.
engineering director, manufacturing manager, stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't necessarily hate the idea. I think there is the consideration of what if I don't know how bad the business risk would be of not doing that, and just charging another 5 points on every project. I don't know if that would help your close rate or is something that's worthwhile to think about. It's definitely risky.
Yeah, really, at the end of the day, to do an automation project correctly, you really should put some boots on the ground.
Yeah,
I mean, you're spending, it's custom machine, $500,000 plus typically. Having somebody get in that facility and analyze that. I mean, we've also like, all right, do we just scope our statement of works a little bit differently, and then we just have a hard kill at like 20,000 early on in a project, so
right.
both parties could kill that project if it was grossly misscoped.
I mean, what about just a reframing of like, okay, you have what we think might be $1 million project. What if you collected a $25,000 deposit, right? And you say, hey, we're gonna, refund you 25 grand less, set the $7,500 if this doesn't work out. That way, you get people into the mindset of they're doing the project as opposed to trying to sell the automation assessment.
Potentially, it on that side, it just comes down to the amount of effort it takes to put those proposals together.
Right.
So typically, a proposal of a custom machine takes 20 hours.
Mm-hmm.
At on the low end is 20. Maybe some of the simple palletizers we're cranking out in less than a day. To the most we've ever put into a proposal is 300 hours. So it's
Yep.
still like, but nobody ever wants to pay for any of that.
Right. No,
which is
I
always
totally get
the
that.
challenge.
I'm just wondering if you reframe it and you actually charge more, so
Potentially.
people feel like they're not actually paying for it, right? If it's a $25,000 or $50,000 deposit, and it's going towards $1 million machine. It doesn't feel like this separate entity or the separate line item that.
That is an interesting way to put it. Is it's like, all right, this gets counted towards. It's what's funny is it's the exact same.
It's the same.
It's the exact
thing,
same
but the
math,
framing's the reverse.
the exact same pitch. It's just the perception you're giving to that sale.
Yeah, I think the big thing is making it not feel like they're spending that money, right? Even though, and
As I
it's
laugh.
still, yeah.
Oh, it's a good, it's an interesting approach to it. I'll have to kick that one around the team and think about that more because that's been a common thing. Because we're not only trying to mitigate our risk, we're really trying to mitigate the end customer's risk and give them the best opportunity. Because a lot of times we're looking at multiple projects in parallel. Like, hey, we want to do automation, and I can use an example of one customer. One's depalletizing.
Yep.
They're like, all right, we want to depalletize this decently heavy aluminum product into a vibratory feeder. Yeah, we can depalletize that, no problem. We start talking, and he's talking about this end of line palletization that they have, and he shows me a picture. I'm like, oh, what's the rate on that? It's like, oh, we've got to move these basically one every 15 seconds, maybe closer to 20 seconds. I'm like, all right, how much does one weigh? Oh, they're 15 pounds. All right, and you have one person dedicated to each one of those, and I'm looking down the row, and they have 6 of these lines.
Yep.
I'm going, we could sell you 6 robots in that case versus your custom one for like 1.5 times.
Right. Yep.
So it was like, oh my gosh, the ROI on that is so much better. But had he not shown me this one random picture as he was just like scrolling through for the other project and me asked the question, we never would have known unless I went on the floor.
Right. Yeah.
It's just like, how do you find those things is the challenge of.
Oh,
custom
I'm not
machines.
questioning the automation assessment. I'm just questioning how you sell it.
No, and I'm just
Yeah.
I'm just trying to pose like the challenges just to help give more ideas because I really like your idea of all right, make the number bigger, and then maybe we just make part of your $1 million automation budget. Actually, that could be it.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
just
we
think
know
like
you're committing
by
to a
putting
CapEx.
it all in that one box, it doesn't feel like you're spending $7,500.
All right, I have one person I think I'm going to try this on that I've been chatting with. I think he'd like that perspective. All right, we're gonna do a capex of say 1.2 million or something on that project. Stage 1 is to get people back on the ground. It's going to cost you X. We're going to scope out the project and show you what it looks like, and then give you a hard number. That's I'm going to try it. I like it.
The other thing I worry about, Matt, with the idea of the marketing thing, I know that's popped up of, you've gone so far as to say like, oh, I wish I had like a marketing firm, right? I worry it may be playing into your shiny object syndrome, which I think all entrepreneurs have. And I think it could get away from you pretty quick.
I think that's really good insight because that definitely crossed my mind because I was like, oh, technically we'd have to spin this as a separate department. Oh, we'd have to. And then I'm like, oh, then the videographer is going to be distracted about just growing that side of the business, not growing develop, which is really real. It's like you nailed it. And so I'm glad you're calling me out on it.
Yep.
Yeah, I can snowball those things, especially when I'm high energy optimistic like I've been the last month. This is like the timing I need somebody to reel me in.
Yeah, you get that good snowball, and then when that snowball gets just a little bit too big, that's when you start making stupid decisions, and I've been there a million times.
Oh yeah, for sure. So that's my sales and marketing for the week. I think the only other thing is Mega Menu's up if you want to check that out at some time. So we've got some colors we got to button up on it, but overall I'm like 95% satisfied with the way it looks. So see what you think of it.
Yeah. I love mega menus. I mean, it's definitely my favorite for under products.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is I kind of wish like the manufacturing and the other sections had the same like picture-y, I don't like to have to think when I'm on a website, right? I think that's what the internet has kind of done to everybody.
That's true. And it wouldn't take much for us to do that under, the automation, the machine design. We could have just a little cell there or a piece of CAD image. Linear transfer machine's really easy. Adhesive dispensing's easy. Yeah, that would be a solid way to do that. And I don't think that'd take much more effort.
Yeah, that's my only feedback there. But yeah, I love mega menus. They make us so much easier to navigate. And the site's snappy. I think that's an even bigger deal. That you're back to having a snappy site that doesn't take 4 seconds to load.
Yes, thank you for noticing that because now let's just check it in 2 weeks and make sure it sustains because that's been the constant back and forth here for the last couple months is we get it back up to snappy and then I don't look edit in that lens for a while, and then I was like, why is it so slow?
I totally
So,
get that.
all right, you're up. I'm going to type some notes about the pictures and I'll let you go.
Yeah, marketing and sales for us. I haven't been really focusing on that. I've been more focused on trying to catch up on R&D. Let me think of marketing and sales. We kind of have the kind of standard background stream of sales going, through our sales guys that our guy that misses me, which is still great. I have been encountering. I think we haven't been as on top of, just top of funnel and general marketing as we should have been.
Okay.
I think I brought this up over and over and over. But email marketing, we haven't been, getting the weekly newsletters out. LinkedIn, I haven't been as on top of. Obviously, I mentioned I think last week that I did like a month worth of, maybe it was the week before, of Instagram posts, which has been very nice to see. Just like looking at our follower account or our number of followers, we're actually gaining 10 followers a day or something.
Oh, wow.
Which
That's great.
and when we were posting once, twice a week, that didn't happen. But I think the algorithm is just putting it in front of people because
How
of
many
the
times are you
consistency.
posting now total a week?
5.
5 times a week. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Yeah.
And we're probably at like 5 stories a day too.
Interesting. Yeah, because for us, we're posting on average 1 time a week and then usually 1 story a week. We've seen a regression in followers over the last like 30 days. And it's like our cadence hasn't changed. Our content's actually gotten better, in my opinion. But why have we lost 20 followers in the last 30 days?
Yeah. And we were seeing the same thing. We were just about to hit 5,000 like forever. And we were posting probably 1 to 3 times a week. And we were seeing our follower count go down. So, but our strategy has always been kind of lower quality content of, not super curated, just kind of whatever we can throw together. And one of the big things for us was that we had our machinist Lance start to take videos, and now he just slacks them to me. I download them. I basically just upload them, type up a quick little note for the description, and that's the entire amount of effort. And it seems to be working. So yeah, there's that. Man, the big one that's kind of been haunting me is our ad creative, though. We spend that roughly 10 grand a month with meta ads, and I just know because I've seen our own ads, hundreds of times. I know our ad creative is stale. I know our customers are probably tuning it out. I know it needs to be redone, and then something else becomes the priority. Whether it's R&D or customer turnkeys having issues or whatever, and I jump on those things. Probably largely because they're more fun, right?
Sometimes seeing the same thing isn't bad. Like,
but it
sometimes,
is at this point, Matt. I mean, we've been showing
Okay,
people the
it's-
same thing since last March.
Oh, okay. So it's, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. I didn't realize it was
Well,
almost a
yeah.
year
I mean,
old.
even I've gotten this feedback from customers. I've gotten this feedback from our employees because kind of all of our a huge amount of our customers are kind of in the Instagram ecosystem because that's where we advertise
yeah.
so aggressively.
Well, that's your customer. I mean, most of your
Yeah.
customers are what, under 10 million in revenue and constantly uploading what their cool stuff they're making to
Well,
socials.
ironically, it's not our best customers though. Our best customers have been finding us mostly through Google and Facebook. Our best customers, I would say, are definitely kind of similar to probably your target market in that 10 to 50 million range.
Okay.
But there are definitely, I would say, the majority by number and probably pretty close to revenue are in that smaller scale.
Okay.
But I think that's where we're targeting because we've seen the targeting be effective on the meta platforms in general, not because we're hitting the perfect targets the way we would want. The problem is we just never saw success with LinkedIn or some of the other channels.
Yeah, we're just turning LinkedIn on now, so we'll, I guess, within the
Advertising or
Yeah, we're gonna try. We did it a while back. It sucked. I didn't get anything out of it. Everybody keeps telling me for our target market.
I've been told that a million times too, and I've never gotten a single qualified lead out of LinkedIn.
We're gonna try it again. We're actually spinning it contradictory to what we were talking about on sales and marketing. What we were gonna try and do is run it towards our automation assessment ebook.
Yep.
Get people. So if you don't want to pay for our automation assessment, you can always download our ebook and learn how to do it and leverage exactly what we're going to do when we come on your floor and the tools we give them there, all our ROI calculators, everything. So we're going to try and run it to that. And then the thought that we were going to try was making our automation assessment a product and putting it under our product section.
Okay.
So potentially a CEO of a $100 million company on a Sunday night when he knows he's going into a problem on his floor because he's short labor, but he's calling in sick, he's going to spend 5 or 10 grand for an automation assessment was the theory, but we'll see.
Right. Yep. Maybe. I don't know how many
Yeah.
you're going to move that way.
It's better than the couple that we've done, because the couple that we have done have turned into really good people to work with. Like,
Yeah.
and they're bought into spending it on automation because they have skin in the game. They're typically new to automation too, so they don't know exactly
What
what
if
they don't know.
what if you like think of it in kind of a segmented way where you say, okay, we have the automation assessment as a product, right? But I think maybe the issue you're running into is you're trying to sell that product to people who are already in your marketing funnel or your sales funnel rather, who are already a qualified lead for a project, right?
They're not always a qualified lead
Okay.
for a project. They know they want to automate.
But they don't know where yet.
They don't know where,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah,
the challenge.
we get those customers too who we had one yesterday who came and saw the intro load and the grip flip grip automation palette. Oh God, that's so hard to say.
It's because of the
catchy.
cough drops. It's
Yeah,
because of the cough drops.
it's 'cause of the cough.
You'll nail it next week.
It is hard to say. And the line load conveyor and everything, and it was the guy manages a whole bunch of facilities for a multifaceted company that owns a bunch of other companies, and it was really just I want to see what we can potentially automate and where we might start, right? And so we definitely run into those too.
Yeah. It's
But yeah,
a fun. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say with marketing, I just gotta, I think, hold myself accountable, especially now that we're a little caught up on some of this R&D to just making new ad creative, even if it's not great, even if it's just okay. I think we'll have better conversion out of okay ad creative than what we're getting right now out of maybe decent ad creative that has been played over and over and over to the point that we get customers complaining like, "God, I've seen your same ad like 1,000 times."
Oh yeah, I've seen the ad you're talking about. I mean, it's
Yeah, the one with the gripper on the VF2 with the Saunders plate.
oh yeah, I've seen that.
It feels like
several
the
times.
entire Instagram and like YouTube community have seen that same ad, and
Well,
we
I
just
mean,
need something
those
new.
of us that have seen it enough just blocked it.
Yeah. That's the problem. I block it out. Like I see my own ad, which I know I'm paying to see on Instagram, and then I just zone it out. I just click next, and it's like instinctual, and that's what I need to break. Yeah.
All right.
I know there's like a meta retargeting thing too that supposedly changed that you can limit the number of times a single ad shows to people, and I definitely need to turn that on.
Yeah, that would be huge, or at
Yeah.
least within a period of time. Like, all right, only show it to them 3 times in 7 days.
Right. Yeah.
And then if they haven't seen it in 14 and they're still engaging in this platform, show it to them another 3 times or something. I don't know what the number is, and
Yeah.
being speculative, but I always hear it takes like 12 touch points before a sale. So
Yeah. I thought it was 7. The number always changes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But with LinkedIn, the problem we ran into was just we could never get the targeting good enough. Even like by industry sectors, like there's not
So
like
broad.
they're so broad. You can't just choose like machine shops or just go after someone with the title, like shop foreman. It gives you these kind of weird titles and sectors that don't really let you, nicheify enough to really get good ROAS. At least that's what we saw.
It seems like it's for selling SaaS. Like if
Yeah,
you're selling
yeah.
Intuit QuickBooks, you're going to crush it on LinkedIn.
Yeah, if you're a CPA firm, if you're a law firm, like, and that's where I think that they're really gearing their ad spend towards.
Yeah, and so I guess maybe now that we've really focused in on the automation services side of our businesses versus running ads for products, we might see a better traction.
Yeah. Should we go to the next section?
Yeah, we've been on sales and marketing, but that's always where I'm energetic, and
Yeah.
then you crush me in engineering and R&D. So let's hear what's been happening in your side of the engineering and R&D.
Yeah. So I think last week I complained about the Click Plus PLC, and there was just some weird electrical problem on, and I don't even know where it was on our old electrical. And it's all panelized properly. I mean we kind of followed the general UL procedures, and I just don't know what went wrong. And it got to the point where we literally just redid all the electrical from the ground up, and that was faster than troubleshooting it. But
That that sounds like some of the controls problems we've ran into. Like
yeah,
the
it's probably
worst.
some weird ground issue, or some loose connection.
And so was it an intermittent issue?
Yeah, it was an intermittent issue. So like
Because
the
those
motors
are
would move the way they were supposed to, and then just randomly they would not.
yeah, that sounds like controls to me at the end of the day. Like it's you'll run something and then like I haven't seen that bug
Yeah.
in a month. Why is it back?
Yep.
What changed?
Yep.
I mean, we had when we gave the demo for the walkthrough today, we had a homing sensor, a axis homed in the wrong direction, and it hasn't homed in the wrong direction in 2 months. Like actually, I don't know
Yeah.
if it ever has. So in the 2 months that we've been running cycle testing on it, it never homed that way. And then we power the thing up for them because they want to see it from a start, and it
Yep.
homes the wrong. It's like why? And then shut it down, restart it, and it goes fine.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
But now the Rev4 conveyor, the line load conveyor system, no longer the CLS, has been like pretty much finalized. This unit we're getting ready to take to a customer shop floor. We're just waiting on some information. That's there's always some missing piece of information, with everything we do, turnkey checklists, all the stuff. So somehow some lines get left empty, or there are things we have to figure out. But I'm super happy there. I did most of the PLC integration and programming myself, and man, I've really just changed my tune on ladder logic PLC programming. And, I went from this is terrible, being familiar with C# and the like, to like, oh my god, to do things. It's just so easy. It feels like now, to get a switch to interface with a thing, or to get a homing sensor to work. I've totally changed my tune on that.
Yeah, it's a couple lines of code, not hundreds.
Yeah. I mean, just for doing it's only really when things get sequential. But our the conveyor is so simple, and one thing we realized doing kind of the engineering review of what are we going to change on the next on Rev 4.2 of the line load conveyor system. We realized, hey, like we've been talking about putting this on a 3-axis system forever, and the issue has always been centering under the spindle. Now we have a programmable motor there. Like it just works.
Yeah,
so
no problem then. You just tune it.
Well, now the problem is that it's designed for 5-axis on that rev, so we just need to make it a little longer, so it traverses into the center of the spindle.
I see.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Otherwise, you have to feed it from the front, and then you're
That'd be
obstructing the
gross.
operator. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be gross.
So there's that. I think that was a big win for us. We were really worried with that intermittent issue that we were going to have to delay the customer again. We have a good relationship with this customer, and it really turned into hey, we'll give you a really, really solid price on this, but you have to understand you're getting the first one, right?
Yeah.
And we already delayed them once. We didn't want to have to delay them a second time. So I'm really glad that got sorted out. And then the other big item has been the internal auto door, which is a project I handed pretty much entirely to our senior engineer when I got sick. And I just told him, figure it out. Let's get it going. It was definitely slower than if I would have done it, but he's done a really good job. And the
80% done by somebody else at a
100%
different
awesome.
pace. Exactly.
Yep. So that's been really cool to see. It's basically we moved away from. I think that I've mentioned Acon a couple of times. We moved away from that, kind of pre-built a system to something that's 100% custom, which is great for us because it means that we actually can get margin on the door now, which we couldn't before.
That's nice.
Yeah, it sucks to sell something at a very, very 3%.
Yeah, you have a loss leader in your product.
It was just like we felt like we couldn't sell the door for $7,000 where we could make margin on it. But nevertheless, we got that all sorted out. We just have to make some more tweaks. It's motorized now, so it does require that all the systems have a PLC, which honestly, we also ended up building the programming system because we looked. I think I mentioned this too a couple weeks ago. We looked at all these programming systems to schedule pallets, and they all sucked, and they were all $20,000, and they all had a $1,500 a year recurring fees. So we just built that, put it on a PLC. It took me a day to build it. Like, how are people charging $20,000 for this? I don't know. But that's going to combine with the motor for the auto door, and we just have to replace the rubber that we have on there now with something a little bit higher durometer because it's just too stretchy.
Okay. Nice. At least
But
you have a game plan of details you got to button up, and that's the best part of a project. When you're like, I just got to change the durometer of this because it's just not quite perfect.
well, we like yeah. So like Anish, our senior engineer, chose like the right durometer of rubber. He actually asked Acon like, what durometer is this? But theirs was had this like internal fabric that basically made it have kind of much higher stiffness in
Yeah,
very low stretchiness.
sounds like R
To
and
put
D
it
to me.
technically.
Yeah, it sounds like R and D. You
Yeah.
you went by the book. You made the right decisions, and at the end of the day, real world applies itself.
Yeah, we also tried to make it magnetic, so like you didn't have to drill into the machine at all, which
Okay.
did not work.
Yeah.
The motor had too much force and just kind of pulled the system off, so we ended up drilling and tapping into it.
Okay. Part
But
of
it means at least the final units we're not spending $400 in the little switchable magnets. Yeah.
That's probably ideal. Switchable
but-
magnets. So you had like
yeah.
electromagnets?
No. You know the mag switch magnets? You like turn them 90 degrees.
Oh,
And-
yes.
yeah.
Okay. I know what you're
And
talking about.
one of our early auto doors, the external one, we actually used to hold up with 8 of those. But the
Really?
problem is when someone would crash a conveyor into it, it would collapse.
See, that's how you got to hold your air knife on that window on.
Yeah. No, we
Not
actually
to
do
call
use
back.
we do use the magnets to hold on the air knives.
Nice.
Yeah. Which is actually something we're moving away from because it's they're just finicky to adjust really.
Got it.
Because you're like trying to reach in on either side of the door inside of the UMC and swap them out and turn them back on. But we really like the new system we have for adjusting the shelves on the intraload.
Okay.
But once you set them with the door now, the way the door is built, you have to set them once and then they get left there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happens if somebody changes what they're running?
Well, so it's kind of just like any pallet system. Once that door is on there, of like this is the max size pallet you can run, right?
Okay. I see what
So
you're saying.
you're choosing whether you got to choose the size of pallet, and there's a a very narrow constraint. Like the pallets are 6 inches in X, they can't get any bigger. In Y, they can get up to like 8 inches, but they can also be narrower. So we
Got
can
it.
get somewhere between 9 and 24 pallets, depending on how big they are. But now that we're kind of shipping with the door standard, once that system is configured, you're kind of setting it there. So you might say, okay, we're going to have 8 inches of total part height and stack up possible on a 9 pallet configuration or something.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Makes
I know I
sense.
kind of rambled on, but
No, I get it. I asked the question. So I've never had to put a pallet pool on a machine like that. So those are details that I wasn't quite aware of.
yeah, and that's I would say even bigger than typical for a 5-axis pallet pool.
Okay.
Oh, and then I didn't even mention one thing we've been working on that's been a
wait,
background
there's more.
project that just came back from Anodize. We have a kind of temporary, or I guess in the spindle version of the intraload that basically lets you move those pallets around inside of the
Okay.
machine just like a spindle gripper. So we got some parts
I'm
back from
missing something.
Anodize, tested it out.
Moving the pallets around just like
So
this.
we have that high force gripper that's
Yes.
just about to release, and that high force gripper in the 90-degree orientation is actually what does the gripping of the side of the pallets in the intraload.
Got it.
And we had just made a separate kind of gripper finger, and put the system vertical, and that allows us to grab pallets inside the machine with that tool loaded in the spindle.
I understand now. Okay. That's clever.
So that's something, but yeah, that's another thing. Like we have to go through the motions of creating a Shopify page, creating SOPs on assembly, actually putting some effort into marketing it. And I think that's our big constraint right now is I just haven't been on top of marketing enough.
Engineers are always good at making stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
The
I gotta put my
world
marketing
cannot
hat
find
on.
it unless you tell them.
Yeah, and I have those little 2-week bursts where I feel like awesome at marketing, and then something else comes up. And that's my continual yearning for a little bit more scale. Once we're 2 or 3 times the size, just having,
dedicated.
Anishes in all the locations. People who are, maybe not pushing as hard at any one time, but just bringing the consistency that, I don't have because I'm playing whack-a-mole at all times.
Yeah, consistency outwins. I mean, tortoise in the hare methodology, it definitely applies in business.
Oh, I love being the hair.
Yeah, I mean, but
Yeah,
we
yeah,
need the people on our team that are consistently delivering
yeah.
on those certain things, so
Yeah, like in
they
terms
don't
of
fall
staff,
behind.
I want tortoises all the time. Yeah. And I think maybe when we get to a certain point, I'll want a couple more hairs. I'm taking the analogy too far, but
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, it comes down to discipline and
yeah,
reliability at the end of the day. That's, you know, something that just becomes part of your culture.
yeah, for sure. Well, what about you on terms of R&D?
Yeah, so we've got a trade show coming up in March. We've decided that we're going to take a new MRS cart that's going to be a little bit different. It's not
Hmm.
much. It's making some of our controls cabinets a little bit nicer. We're going to shorten the whole thing up so we have a little bit more range on pallet size. Uh, that's pretty much it. Not a whole lot of changes. We're hoping to have a different robot on it, but more to come if Matt can get that deal buttoned up prior
Mm.
to the show. Maybe I'll be sharing some more around that in the coming weeks because
Hmm.
it's something I'm excited
Oh, I
about.
saw your HMI by the way when it looked beautiful on
Thank
the
you.
yeah.
Did you?
I
So you
love
saw?
the way the interface looks, the general industrial design of the actual uh, GUI is just excellent.
Thank you. That's been 2 years in the making.
Yeah.
So we've had one dedicated software engineer on that.
Hmm.
I'm assuming you're referencing the one that just got posted on Instagram.
Yeah.
And so that's one rev old on hardware. So we've changed the hardware already since then. We're using a different industrial HMI that's faster because we're using an industrial or the OnLogic PC with it
Yep.
then. But yeah, the industrial design hasn't changed a whole lot. We've revved it up a little bit based on what we learned from that application. But thank you very much. The team's very excited about where that's headed because it's definitely a differentiator on our sales proposals for
Yeah,
certain
I mean,
competitors.
I'm jealous, and to be fair, I think we have a decent looking HMI, especially, but we've put in a collective week into the GUI and the interface, but
Yeah,
the stuff we're doing is a lot simpler too.
we have well over 2,000 hours just
Hmm.
into building out the front end software for that. And then there's the back end for Power BI connection that we're doing. So data analytics on our machines
Yep.
and dashboards with that and TeamViewer to connect to it so we can do remote service and diagnostics. Like it just stacks up. Like you bite that off and then you get 2 years into the future. You're like, man,
Yeah.
I didn't realize what I decided to chew off.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
But yeah,
our our entire remote diagnostics are like the Click PLC Wi-Fi connection.
yeah, that's
Yeah, at least
I think
something.
that's a great progression. And for what you're doing, I think you're adding a lot of value to your customers.
Yeah.
So other than that, it's been things on top of the HMI actually that we've been working on for R&D. So part placer, we now have it working with the industrial FANUC on our floor. So we're placing with our own part placing algorithm. So you can go into
Yep.
our user interface, use our GUI. You can drag and drop all your boxes, build out your pallet with your box size and the configuration you want. That's really gotten through the Rev Zero. So Rev Zero is like, all right, we know we're going to probably throw this away. MRS
Right.
is going into Rev 1, Part Placer is going into Rev 1 now. So it's been the week of Rev 1 kind of transitions, I would say, for us, which has been really
Yeah,
cool.
the
And same thing
closer every HMI gets to a Datron, the happier it makes me.
So that is one of the reasons that we bought the Datron back in the day is because the
Yeah.
user interface is so good. And it's like that's something we really strive for on the automation side. Like it's so well executed.
Yeah, the Datron's control is really what makes that machine.
Yeah, for sure. Having one on our floor, the interface
Yeah.
is the reason you continue to love that machine.
I kind of wish Haas or someone would just buy them up and rip off their control. And
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know if the market. I think it's a different user base though, and it's something that has to grow in. I mean, if all of a sudden you put that HMI on every Haas, I think half the users would hate Haas.
yeah, but everybody hates change, like, and we would hate it too, I'm sure at first.
That's
But
true. Yeah.
That's the thing. I'm sure that was true when Haas came out with the NGC, which was almost the same as the prior one. Of like, oh well, I liked it better before, and especially with the way just the general attitude of a lot of the kind of standard machinists.
Hey, don't move my buttons.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's the thing I always hear is
yeah.
don't
I want to
move
use a
my buttons.
vernier caliper, vernier. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's always not even the little rotary dial.
Yeah, so that's been the bulk of our week is going to Rev 1. It's been really cool to see part placer, case direction. Like you said, that HMI. and the MRS. Like those are all things that have been kind of finally ticked off
Yeah.
over the last couple of weeks here.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. Yeah, I mean, and even with the line load, it's finally at the point where I'm like super happy with it. Where I'm like, I think it's just such a slam dunk, and I'm pretty picky. I think the first generation of all of our products, like I think our customers end up being happier than I am with, because I think, oh, that could have been better, and the customer just thinks, oh, it works.
Yeah. Customer perception's always part of the game, right?
Oh, it's a huge part. Yeah. We've changed a lot of things, not because it was correct from an engineering or a operations perspective, but because it was just easier to sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we had that little pallet guard system, which worked perfectly, but at the end of the day, it was if we keep fighting the same objection with customers of chips are getting in the intro load, or chips potentially could be hypothetically having seen it,
Yeah,
then
that perception's huge.
yeah, you just put a door there, and you've killed that customer objection before it happens, and now, maybe you lose one low cost sale, but you're closing 5% more, even with it the higher price.
That math sounds great to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true, and it's always, to be fair, the customer who buys the least optioned, crappiest version of something, or who becomes the pain point. I mean, at least that's what we've seen of. Those are the customers who try to stretch you and push you and try to make you deliver far above and beyond what you promised or are obligated to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Cool. You want to move to the next section?
Yeah, company-wide updates and improvements. That's what's next.
I'll let you start there.
All right, I'm going to start. So I talked a little bit about OKRs. We started doing a little bit of that in our last all-team meeting Friday. It's been really, like, this whole year and even into last year, there's been so many changes that develop from kind of team culture, processes, but just the acceptance of like how we're putting objectives or priorities in front of the team, what our long-term missions and visions are. Like our teams, like just the focus and passion that I'm seeing now that everybody's understanding things further and further. And then we're defining the objectives, if you will. So we're always running with 3 main priorities at the top of every all-week meeting. Now it's got to the point where, all right, we print these off and we put them in by the urinals or in the bathroom and on top of tables, so people just continually see them. But it used to be like a simple, like incomplete sentence. Now it's
Right.
gotten to the detail of like, I wonder if I still have it up. I could read an example. One of them used to be, all right, it was focused on like sales, but it was like very vague. Now it's, all right, Q1, deliver 12 plus automation sales proposals that mitigates our risks while still providing a high value competitive solution to the end customer. So now
Gotcha. Do
sales
you guys do
knows-
like a scorecard or anything?
What do you mean by a scorecard?
So we have a Google sheet that we update every week, and we have like assigned people who are responsible for some kind of thing. So like, our sales guy, Gary, he's responsible for, did he get 5 demo meetings, right? And in our weekly meeting, that's one thing we review. It's like, okay, is that number 7 or is that number 2? And if it's 2, we're going to talk about it. And we do that with all kinds of things, with revenue, with Shopify sales, and it just lets us kind of, we know, is it a good week or was last week a good week or was it a bad week and why?
Yeah, we haven't gone to scorecards in that level per se. We've started exporting like stuff from reports, dashboards, and to these goals. I think that's probably where we're moving, is those are like the key results or the metrics in that OKR aspect of it. And I think that's probably where we're heading. It's just we haven't shifted there hard yet. Something we've also been wanting to do is really all our projects, the key metric in the engineering or manufacturing side is labor. We've been really trying to get our one plan with our forecast of all our projects done. And then once that's laid out, the goal was to create a Power BI dashboard so we could see real time, all right, the project was bid at say 4,000 hours.
Yep.
We're in stage 1, which was 1,000 for simple math here. We've already got 1,200 hours into it. Like it just keeps, or we're 300 hours into it. How do we keep this momentum? Just continuously having a dashboard around that has been something we've been really wanting to build, so the team maintains focus on that.
Yeah, like the scorecard is just like a week to week general dashboard.
Yeah.
And the way at least we do it is, we have probably 10, 15 items that are just numbers and one of them is like general automation revenue. and another one is Shopify revenue, and another one is total revenue, and it's like those are ones that I'm responsible for. And if the number is high, great, we just state it to the leadership team, move on. And if it's below what the target is, then we talk about why.
Yeah, and it's not to beat anybody up. It's to hopefully give somebody support if they need it.
Yeah, and the like this most recent meeting, it was like, okay, Gary, why didn't you have 5 demo calls? And that became a conversation of, is this Gary not doing what he's supposed to be doing, or is this that we have a top of funnel issue? And we landed in, I think both could use improvement. I think it's more top of funnel issue than Gary not pushing hard enough.
Yeah, it's a solid approach.
Yep.
I like it.
I don't know. It's been a really big deal for me of knowing and having a pulse on how the company is doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm trying to think of the scorecards or the metrics, KPIs, what we'd be tracking there. Yeah, it's a little bit different on our side, but it's definitely something I should be thinking of. It's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, just the structure for me and I'm kind of the person who wouldn't review those things if there wasn't a structure around it, but because we always have a meeting at the same time every week, and that's part of the structure of that meeting, it means I always have an accurate feeling of how the company is doing.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But I'll let you keep going. I kind of jumped in there.
No, I think that's a perfect transition to something else that you've been doing for company-wide updates and improvements. That's kind of the big thing we've been doing is just processes and communication. Mm-hmm. It's getting better.
Yep. For us, I think the big one, and this is kind of super last minute, but the Arta guys, the incremental podcast.
Oh yeah.
They reached out and they're already in town, and we're hopefully going to do a little mini install day with them.
Oh, that's cool.
On the weekend. So I'm still trying to coordinate to get at least half of our team here maybe on the weekend, and for one day, and hopefully to get a lot of our ordering cleaned up, because we've been kind of slowly implementing Kanban and Arta, but there's countless things that are still on our old kind of crappy Kanban system, or even things like paper towels and soap that are or end mills that aren't Kanban at all right now, and we're putting mental energy into them for no reason.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a fun weekend.
Yeah. To me, it actually sounds like a boring day, and I'm sure Uriel and the guys will be super fun to hang out with. But it's not my favorite thing. But it's just such an easy, low-hanging fruit in terms of optimization of like, why are we thinking about ordering paper towels or end mills or really any of these components that we're getting on a repeat basis?
Exactly. I think it's spot on. Kanban's a great way to go.
Yeah. So shout out to Arta.
Nice.
Other just general improvements, we've been focused on really trying to, well, I guess my general improvement, I think I just need to work on sales and marketing for the next week now that I say it all out loud.
There you go. We'll talk about it next week. Should I put it here? I'll put a note for next week here.
Did Michael update Ad Creative?
There you go. Now you've got an accountability here, because now I'm going to ask you about it.
I know. Yep. Yeah, that's one thing that we talked about in the most recent L10 meeting, our like weekly meeting. We promoted Anish up to this kind of leadership position, and one thing I noticed is he was kind of struggling to like let some fires burn, and I think that's one thing. Maybe I'm almost too good at sometimes of just letting an internal fire burn.
Sometimes
where
they just burn out.
Yeah. Well, sometimes sometimes they burn out, and it's a bad thing that they burnt out, right? Because it's like, okay, that inefficiency continues to live, and it's striking that balance. To where I think I need to probably, especially now that I have more of a team around me, focus more on those little optimization things, and still let fires burn, but really focus on letting the small smolders burn, and maybe the little microwave on fire or whatever metaphor we want to use, putting those ones out a little bit more aggressively, even if there's a bigger one that I need to get to a day later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I've used the fire analogy quite a bit, and it's all too easy to chase what appears to be urgent.
Yeah, that's very true. What appears to be the biggest, hottest fire. Or even that, then like the squeaky customer, they might just be having a bad day, and they might be sending a passive aggressive email and then figure it out the next day, right? And
That
Yeah.
happens. I mean, I've
I've done
had,
it. I'm sure you've
yeah,
done it. Yeah.
yeah, it happens. I mean, I can use an example of a call I had recently where the customer was clearly projecting because there was a lot of pains
Hmm.
they were having. And then we get to the end of it and he goes, I'm sorry, I didn't really listen to you on
Yeah.
that advice you gave me 2 weeks ago. I thought our team was ready for XYZ. And it was like, wow, I'm actually really glad you said that because now I can take that, what you were saying prior, with a bit more grain of salt. We just need to solve
Hmm.
this problem together now.
Yeah. Yep. Well, do you want
So,
to tell me your weekend plans? That's the last section, right?
it's what did you Google, and then
Oh, yeah.
something we're doing. What I
That's why you
Googled,
run the the
yeah.
order.
So ProMat is what I've been Googling. We decided kind of last minute here to do a trade show in Q1 because
Hmm.
trade shows yield the number one amount of leads for us. We've been trying more and more with SEO. It's not
It's
yielding the way
hard.
we
Yeah.
wanted to. So we're going, all right, we're reducing our SEO budget. We're going double down on trade shows for the year is really what we're looking at. And so we're putting one into Q1. The challenge is what's one that Matt can make to that's a big good one in Q1, because they were all in March when the little ones do. So we ended up with ProMat, which is March 17th to the 20th. And so I've been really focusing on, all right, I got it booked. I found us a corner booth somehow last minute at ProMat
Hmm.
at 10 by 15. So I'm thrilled
Awesome.
about that. Now it's getting Airbnb and all the other stuff kind of buttoned up here in 6 weeks.
I have to play devil's advocate a little bit on the SEO thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, at least what I saw is that no one's going to care as much about your company's SEO as you, and I almost wonder maybe you can focus on with your journalist guy or something similar, making them accountable to some kind of SEO metric, or trying to build those processes from within, because that was one thing that we found was really hard at a company our scale, was to
Oh, yeah.
find a firm that cared enough and got the output to where it would ROI.
So we've gotten our domain authority, went from a 9 to a 20 in the
Yep.
last 12 months.
Jeez. Tell me
Yeah,
what you've been doing.
we've been really hitting
Hmm.
it hard with organic content that's educational. Like I look back and we average 25,000 words on our website per month.
Hmm.
That doesn't account for the ebooks and the stuff that was done also on top of that. And like that's also just a lot of energy because I reviewed
Yeah.
every single word. Like I read every single piece and made sure that it aligned with the business and dug into it. And that got to the point of draining, but it takes so long for SEO to really hit. I mean, we're seeing some of the stuff that we launched 6 months ago just start to gain traction now. So we also went from, in the last, I guess, 3 years, from 0 people on our website. We're only at a little over 500 right now per month, but that's still a lot for our market.
Yeah.
But it just takes so long for SEO. And it's like, all right, we need to get some solid leads. We're going to at least 3 trade shows this year. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. There's, like little things that we did of just spending a day or two just looking for all the low hanging fruit of search terms, like digging into them in SEMrush and just building articles to really go after, like I think I mentioned in one podcast, like gripper fingers had
Yeah.
like an incredibly low, search difficulty. And, we wrote an article and we ranked for it. But yeah, going from a 9 to a 20 is color me impressed in 12 months. Like we went from a non-existent to like a 10 over the course of 18.
Yeah, and that's what we did in our first 18. So I wouldn't be surprised if you maintain that because we've been doing SEO now since, I guess it's been 4 years now. So that first one, it took us, 0 to 9 was that first 18 months. And then
Yeah.
it takes a while.
Cool. Now on to what are your weekend plans, right?
Yeah. Well, what did you Google?
Oh, what did I Google? So I think some PLC stuff, a little bit of marketing stuff. I think I've been really focused in on R&D, some competitor research, right?
Okay.
Just a lot of general stuff, nothing really specific.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, I think I've
My
been
week-
kind of dialed in this week.
It sounds like it. Yeah, my weekend's going to be kind of laid back, so probably going to be cutting some trees down in the yard with my dad. We've got some stuff that's just dead in our backyard, so it should be a good weekend for that. And then kind of the fun part is I bought a bonsai kit tree, so
Oh,
I
cool.
wanna grow some. I don't know. I always tend to kill them. Like I've done bonsai trees in the past. They always die relatively quickly, but I bought this little kit, so I'm going to give it a shot.
I can't be trusted with plants just at all.
I can't believe this thing behind me is still alive. That's not fake.
Yeah.
But it's getting kind of brown. I did this like oil diffuser the one day in here with mint. And Amanda's like, you're probably going to kill your plant. And it's like turning brown now since I did that. So I might have to buy a new one.
Just remembering to water them is my challenge.
Yeah, I do it every Friday when we do our cleanup. I just dump like a half a gallon in there.
Okay.
It's a bamboo. They like being
Oh,
plugged,
yeah.
right? All right. What about you this weekend?
Well, we got the ARTA thing going on.
Oh, yeah, duh.
So
I guess I missed that was this weekend.
I mean, generally I take off Fridays and then we'll do and then work Sunday. But I gotta. It's still a little bit uncertain because we're trying to coordinate everything. Because now I'm trying to get some of the team there. So maybe one of our guys takes Friday off, and then I'm running the shop when I wouldn't have been otherwise. So I'm trying
Might just
to
be
figure
a
it out.
14 day straight for you. It
No,
happens.
I don't do that anymore. I've done that too much.
All right.
But I guess you've definitely caught me saying I've worked the entire weekend a couple times.
Hey, you just called yourself out there. I didn't even have to.
you were thinking it.
Was it on my face? I've been
That
told
was your
I-
face.
I-
Like, okay,
yeah, I was gonna
Michael.
say I've been
Yeah.
told I'm very easy to read at times. So
Don't pick up poker.
well, it's funny. We're doing a team poker night coming up here in a couple weeks. The team wants to do poker. We did foosball one night, and we did the go karts for Christmas. But yeah, the team's wanting to do more team events.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'll get crushed in poker is what I meant.
Sweet. Thank you so much for listening to Matt and I's conversation this week on the Manufacturing Automation Podcast. If you like the podcast, please share it with a friend or give us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We'll be back next week to continue sharing our respective journeys in life, business, and industrial automation. Thanks so much.